Hey, JK here. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me. For day 25, we're heading to Atlanta with a play-as-play. Or at least that's where the Atlanta Braves play. They were first in the NL East last year with a record of 104-58 and had a positive 231 run differential. That's definitely how you make stuff happen, scoring more runs and not letting them up. The stat leaders were pretty obvious here. The only odd one out was Ozzie Albies, as he did lead the team in triples. Matt Olson led the team in home runs, no surprise there, RBIs, walks, and slugging percentage. He had 54 home runs, so that makes sense. And Acuna led the team in everything else, including at-bats, runs, hits, doubles, total bases, stolen bases, average, on-base percentage, and on-base plus slugging. While we talked about individual stat leaders, I want to talk about some of the interesting facts about the team as a whole. There were 3 people with 10 or more stolen bases on the team. Obviously, Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies, and Michael Harris Jr. There were 7 guys on the team that had 20 or more home runs. There were also 7 guys on the team that struck out 100 or more times. And there were 3 guys on the team that scored 100 or more runs. That makes this team's success and just ability to do so well that much more interesting. But someone I want to talk about real quick, Marcell Ozuna. We talked about Matt Olson having 54 home runs. However, Ozuna came over and had a measly 40 home runs and 100 RBIs. Those were career best for him. And he was just an extra guy. I mean, he's been there for a few years, but they weren't bringing him in to say, oh, hey, we need you to produce for us. Like, he was just producing. He did so well with the Marlins. They said, well, stop beating us and come join us. And then obviously the rest is history. World Series and obviously doing well. And the fact that 40 home runs and 100 RBIs, nowhere close to team leads, that shows you, again, how good this team is, or just how good Matt Olson is. Someone else to talk about, definitely, is the duo of catchers that the Braves have. Travis d'Arnaud and Sean Murphy. Murphy came over from Oakland, so talk about a turn of events. You go from the worst team in baseball to the best team in baseball. And then d'Arnaud piddled around for a little bit with the Mets and then came down to Atlanta. Those two were able to platoon. They were able to help each other out, not to overtax each other, but also to make each other better. One Murphy was better offensively, whereas one d'Arnaud was better defensively. However, together, they were able to produce 96 runs, 154 hits for a 240 average. They had 31 home runs, 107 RBIs, and 70 walks. Both of them are going to get you on base. Both of them are going to get you some production, and both of them are someone that you trust with your pitching rotation. So the fact that they have 2 phenomenal catchers right there, again, just leads to why that organization is so good, has been so good the last few years. Now, someone that didn't do as great last year and isn't someone who you would think as being a disappointment, and I'm not saying their play was bad, but there are a few things that are going to stick out to you. Once I tell you, you're like, oh, wow, that isn't the best. Michael Harris Jr. Now, overall, the numbers look decent. 20 stolen bases, he was batting .293, popped a few home runs, obviously scoring some runs, getting some RBIs where he was hitting the lineup, but let's take a deeper dive. He was hitting under 200 until June 11th. Then, from June 11th to June 24th, he upped it to 249, and then by the end of the season, like we talked about, was hitting .293. Pretty good. We said he stole 20 bases, right? Cool. Well, he didn't steal a single base after August 29th. There was still a little bit of season left. There were still opportunities to steal bases, even if the Braves knew they had clinched the division that early. If they knew they were going to the playoffs, if they knew they wanted to save a little bit of juice, even though they didn't let the juice out when they were playing the Phillies. In any case, Michael Harris Jr. only also walked 25 times this year and struck out over 100. I think 101 to be specific, but that's not a good walk to strikeout rate. With all the new rules and regulations and real protection given to the base runners, you would expect more than 20 stolen bases. With such hype last year, I think he hit 297. I think everyone was expecting 2023 to be an absolutely enormous year for him. I know people who drafted him super early. Well, he didn't produce like a 4th round keeper. He didn't produce like the number 1 outfielder that you probably drafted him as. So, again, not saying he's bad because he's a great player, but I don't want to see him hit that wall and just not go any further because he has a lot of potential. He's definitely going to be in a lineup where even the weakest is going to be good. They're going to look good given the rest of the people around him. So that's something that I wanted to look at, and that's, kind of why I didn't want to grab him when he was a free agent last year. Now you might look back and say, well, what do you mean you could have gotten him from free agency and traded him and done this? I could have, but I think everyone else was seeing the same thing I saw. There was one person who eventually did pick him up, and he did well for him. I'm not saying he didn't do, but Michael Harris Jr., not the guy that I'm seeing on my fantasy team. So when I am seeing on my fantasy team, at some point in time, Orlando Arcia stepped in as a shortstop and did pretty well. Showed some pop. He had 17 home runs. Did produce runs himself by scoring 66, but also produced runs from others with 65 RBIs. It's pretty good. He also instigated Bryce Harper, and that eventually led to their demise, in my opinion. So Arcia is going to be someone who you can look at shortstop. He's not going to be bad. And also, he has no competition now because Vaughn Grissom is gone. Ozzie Albies going to stay at second. Austin Riley got third. Olsen has first. Not going anywhere, buddy. Arcia is probably going to be mainstay there, and he is going to look better than he really is, in my opinion, because of the great surrounding cast he has. Talk about surrounding cast. This pitching staff, good gosh, they have some good people to look at. Now, earlier in one of the videos, I talked about how they weren't really all that great, but I think I was looking and thinking more of their young starters who had to come up and pitch because of injuries or because of a spot start or because of X, Y, or Z. We'll get to them. But I don't think anyone's surprised here. This is a Spencer Strider show. Except when we're talking about ERA or losses, because both of those went to Charlie Morton. The holds went to AJ Minter and the saves went to Raisel Iglesias. So let's get to these young pitchers. The Braves had quite a few young guys, either just young in general, maybe year or two into their seasons, to their careers, or rookie seasons. So we'll talk about them. Bryce Elder, who was actually just optioned down to Gwinnett recently. And this stat line was optioned down. 31 starts, 12 wins, 174 innings pitched, 3.28 ERA, like 1.3 whip. That was optioned down because there are so many options for them at the major league level. Dang. Jared Schuster, 11 starts, 52 innings pitched, 5.81 ERA, and a 1.5 whip. I didn't say all these guys were good. Alan Winans, 6 starts, 32 innings pitched, 5.29 ERA. Ooh. Dylan Dodd, I remember everyone rushing to the waiver wire to pick this guy up. 7 starts, 74 innings pitched, 7.6 ERA with a 1.89 whip. Hope you didn't spend all your fab money on him. And then this guy, AJ Smith-Shawver. 5 starts, 25 innings pitched, no losses. So he's still sitting at a great 1,000 winning percentage because he did win one game. A 4.26 ERA and a 1.11 whip. He had 20 strikeouts in those 25 innings. He did pretty good. Pretty good compared to the rest of these guys, except Elder. Elder did phenomenal. So with some of the new guys they brought in, arm-wise, that might be why Elder was sent down. But with some of these other fellas who maybe don't have anything left in the tank, like Charlie Morton, I mean, he's coming off a bad year. 30 starts, 12 quality starts, 164 innings pitched, 183 strikeouts, and 14 wins. He definitely doesn't have anything left, right? People wrote him off saying he was old, he wasn't doing any good, he hadn't produced well. I mean, he was on some bad teams until he came to Atlanta, who, guess what, does good stuff. Obviously, their lineup helped them, but the rest of the rotation, their bullpen, that helped them too. So I'm not saying Charlie Morton is going to be your guy because I think he's 39 right now. Morton may hit the IL at some point in time. He may slow down. I mean, he is 39. But wow, 163 innings pitched, and 183 strikeouts. That's pretty good. It's pretty good, especially for an old guy. Another guy that came into the lineup, missed some time on the IL, but then came back to show how good he was, Max Fried. He missed a chunk of time from the beginning of May until early August. Came back to pick up 6 wins, no losses, 6 quality starts, 55 strikeouts, and a spot in the playoffs. He was not sharp in the playoffs, but hey, you got there, right? He did miss some time, like we talked about, and that did hamper some of his numbers, but that's not bad, man. To come back, 6 wins, 6 quality starts, and you're getting to the playoffs, and you're getting to start in the playoffs. It's not bad. Unfortunately, there were some disappointments, one of them being Kyle Wright. He won 21 games in 2022, and then, unfortunately, had some issues with his throwing shoulder. Only came back to throw 31 innings, had an ERA close to 7, was shut down, will miss the entire 24 season. Was traded to the Royals, and it's a sad story because that capsule that he messed up in his throwing shoulder, stuff that it's hard to come back from. Not that I'm a pitcher, but some other guys that just never came back from stuff like that. Woodruff, I believe, is dealing with that right now, and that's really bad. I mean, I don't wish it on anyone, but you know what I'm saying. You know, some of these pitchers that are so good, especially, I think it was like his second or third year when Kyle Wright won all those games. And he was good. But another disappointment, Mike Soroka. Now, he missed some time with injury, came back, and did not do well at all. He is now pitching for the White Sox. So, in a lot of the off-season dealings that the Braves had, they did oust a few of their pitchers. So the fact that Elder is still sent down, and they got rid of some other guys that started for them last year, it's a scary team, man. It's a scary team, both with the bats and with the balls. They all got balls, especially the bullpen. The bullpen right there is definitely a dangerous one. Something I am confident saying that they have one of the better bullpens. Kind of shaky because they did have to rely on former starters. So, Colin McHugh, Jesse Chavez, Nick Anderson, those guys, along with AJ Minter, he wasn't maybe he was a converted starter. At any point in time, those guys, hard throwers, getting you to the strikes, making sure not to give up too much. Now, they did blow some saves. Minter was actually the starting closer because Iglesias started the season on IL. And then Minter got hurt. Chavez got hurt. You know, so it's going to happen. But Minter ended up coming back, settling in as the high leverage relief guy. Of course, Iglesias took over as the closer and did his thing. And again, this bullpen, they're going to get it for you 9 out of 10 times. But they're going to have their clunkers like any team. I do feel comfortable with having shares of this bullpen. I also feel good about having shares of the pitching rotation, especially some of the new guys they brought in, including Chris Sale. This guy's a dark horse to win the Cy Young. He has been doing great stuff with bad teams. You know, obviously a few years ago with the White Sox, they've been bad for a while. He was their star. He was their attraction. Then with the Red Sox the last few years, been hurt, but still producing at high level. Now he's with a team where he doesn't have that pressure. He doesn't have to be the ace. And if he wanted to be, he couldn't be the ace because of Spencer Strider. So now I think he's going to be in a situation where it's going to make him feel better. And when he does give leeway to that bullpen, they're going to have Aaron Bummer, who is one of the best pitchers that the Chicago White Sox had. They got rid of him, and now he's, again, changing from one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball to one of the best teams in baseball. I would absolutely have shares of Aaron Bummer if you're in a saves league. Definitely a holds league. I say saves because there are going to be a few times where Iglesias isn't going to be able to throw. Minter might be out or have been fatigued to where he's pitching a few games here and there. So that's why I'm saying. But for sure holds, because Aaron Bummer is going to be a high leverage guy in my opinion, and he's going to be one of the better bullpen arms. They also picked up a few other guys. Pitch-wise, only Ronaldo Lopez. He's actually looking to compete for the 5th starting spot, so that's crazy. He is going to go from starter to reliever to starter to reliever. And now he's going to be a starter again. So that's great. Some bats that they picked up. They reunited with Adam Duvall. This guy is really home run, walk, or strikeout. He's really a three outcome kind of guy. Jared Kelenic is another guy they brought over in a trade. Definitely hasn't lived up to expectation, hasn't lived up to hype. I don't know if he's going to be able to in Atlanta because that's a crowded outfield. But another guy they picked up, David Fletcher. I love David Fletcher. I liked him when he was with the Angels. He was so versatile. He's the option down to Gwinnett, so it doesn't matter. But just wanted to at least throw it out there. Talking about throwing people out, that's what the Braves did with some pitchers, including Soroka and Schuster. They got rid of those guys because they weren't producing for them. They were either past their prime or not anything they wanted to see prime of. We talked about before, Schuster had a 5.81 ERA. That's not pretty, man. So they're like, nah, man, you go pitch in Chicago for that. Or no, Soroka went to Chicago. Schuster went to Kansas City, I believe. But in any case, they also got rid of Vaughn Grissom. So Vaughn Grissom in 2022 played well for them, and I think everyone thought he was going to be the shortstop. And then Orlando Arcia came in and was like, ha, not today. And then they traded him to the Red Sox, and he's hurt, and I drafted him in the league, and I hope he does good. I hope he isn't out for the season because I'm going to look silly. But in any case, Vaughn Grissom's gone, so that's going to alleviate even more pressure from Orlando Arcia to just do what he does when he's playing in the shortstop position. But in any case, we're going to head out for tonight, finishing up with the NL East. The Braves are good. You don't need to know anything else because you already know that. They're phenomenal. They're a team that's going to get to the playoffs. Barring catastrophic injury, there are three guys, Ronald Acuna, Olsen, Riley, potentially Albies. They're going to be competing for NL MVP, potentially Major League MVP. So, pitcher, wise, Spencer Strider, he's good. Probably going to be competing or grabbing another Cy Young. Their saves, their holds, their bullpens, everything about this team is good. So we're going to finish up with them. We're going to move into the AL East. We're going to be talking about my teams, my home teams. And I'm looking forward to finishing up because we have 5 days left, guys. I'm super excited. 5 days left. Stick with me here. I promise. 5 days, then we get to opening day. And it's a wrap. You only have to hear from me for like 1 day out of the week. Talking about baseball. But in any case, again, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I hope that your team did well for the Soul Series. I had some clunkers, but in any case, this is Jake Hagan. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me.